Hi, I'm Tess,
Hi, I'm Sarah, and we are.
the Happy Edit Sisters. Happiness isn't just being happy, it's an embodied feeling that starts with how we approach life, our actions, and our mindset. Everyone has a range of emotions, and that's a good thing.
Join us as we dive into what it means to be happy and how we build a foundation for happiness through different lenses.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Tess.
So I am incredibly excited today because we have a very special guest on who is a very special person for me. So this person, her name is Amanda McKinney, and she has been my business coach for almost 3 years now. And I'm just so excited that she's here. Amanda McKinney is a recognized thought leader and coach on accidental entrepreneurship. She's the author of Why Not You? An Accidental Entrepreneur's Guide to Success, and the host of the Unapologetic Entrepreneur podcast. As a coach, she can help any accidental entrepreneur navigate self-doubt so that they can take action and uncover their confidence through utilizing her YOU promise framework. And from my own experience, it totally works. She's amazing. I love her. And I'm so, so, so happy that we can share her knowledge with you here on the podcast. So, hello, Amanda.
Hi, Tess, and hi, Sarah. I'm so excited to
Hi.
be here. My gosh, it is so fun to be on your podcast.
Oh, it's
Well,
amazing to have you.
agreed. I'm just here like doing a little happy dance
Oh,
to get
and
us
thank you for
started
that
with the happy
amazing
podcast.
intro. It's so fun to be interviewed by a student of mine, which is really cool. And it was interesting, like you're talking through my bio and saying it, and I was thinking, this is such an interesting moment. Like, I wonder if she agrees with all of these words that, like, words are so hard. We often talk about this in entrepreneurship is, you write this bio and it's incredibly uncomfortable to write about yourself and you tweak it and do all these things. And I heard you reading it thinking, I hope she agrees with all of these things.
I do. And I'm so excited to read your book. I've
Oh,
read snippets of it, and I can't wait to read the whole thing. But I'm going to let you tell us a little bit more about that. So, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
yes, I can. And it's not as awkward when you say it. It's more awkward when you write it for some reason. So I love that I get to be a coach for people like yourself, someone who is feeling like you're stumbling into entrepreneurship because you followed a passion or a hobby. And then you have this moment of, can I do this? I didn't go to business school. Can I really do this? And all that imposter syndrome comes up. Those are the people that I love to work with because I believe in you before you believe in yourself. And so that is encompassing everything I do, which you mentioned the podcast and my book, and everything wraps around that you can do this. All you have to do is tap into your identity as an entrepreneur, just like you have in your life as a human. And so stepping through that is really what I would talk about in the book. And each chapter is dedicated to a certain specific thing that you'll declare. And it becomes your you promise, which then guides you through your entire entrepreneurship journey.
So good. So good. I can't wait to read it.
I can't wait
um,
to see it in your hands.
well, as soon as I get it, there will be lots of pictures taken, sent to you directly, put up online.
I can't wait to see it.
And she'll definitely be like, Sarah, read this chapter. You need to read this chapter.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
I
Definitely.
love that.
Yes. Sarah and I are also like biz besties. So, we like to share a lot of these things. And something I definitely learned from you as well, like the importance of sharing those, the journeys of being an entrepreneur with another person and kind of, getting ideas and just maybe venting a little bit.
Yeah,
Um,
we need it. I mean, that became an entire chapter in the book of finding your support system. And like you said, biz besties are the thing that, the group of people that can help so much because it's someone else that's running a business. And there is just a special bond between us entrepreneurs who are just bootstrapping the thing and just trying to take one step in front of the other. And so often it's so difficult to do that. And so we need to have that phone a friend where we can say, oh my gosh, this is really hard. And I would say, and we want to have those people that we can celebrate with, because not everyone in our life will really understand that we need to celebrate the things like, I just figured out all that tech stuff I was working on for a week, in that celebration. Like, someone might not understand that unless they've gone through it before, and then they will totally celebrate with you.
Most definitely. If everyone could see me, like, I'm really laughing because so I'm not very technical minded at all. So we set up the Instagram page, and it was kind of my little responsibility to set up that page. So that first post, I was like, have I done it right? Have I done it right? And Tess is like, just need to put hashtags. Just hashtag it, Sarah. And I'm like, oh, I need to hashtag it. Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, you just got to do it. Tess has heard me say this about a million times, but done is better than perfect. Just getting something out there is the thing you have to do, because there's no way we're going to do it right. We're going to do it perfectly the first time. I mean, if you think about anything you've ever done in your life, walking, talking, learning to write, no one just knew how to do these things. We had to learn. And for some reason with entrepreneurship, we all of a sudden think we have to have it figured out all of a sudden. And it's like, no, we don't. We just need to get something done in order to take another step. And then we get to look back and think, oh my gosh, look what I did. Like, that looks so silly now, but look how far I've come. And that's a really fun place to be.
Definitely. And I think that's, in entrepreneurship, but in life in general, right? Like, this is so true for so many things in life. And this kind of is a really good segue into my first question I want to ask you. What does happiness mean to you? Right? Because a lot of these things are kind of those happy moments of like, oh, awesome, look what I've done. So, in your life, what does happiness mean to you?
Yeah, I frame it slightly different because I finally defined success for myself recently. And when I was thinking about being on your podcast, I was like, is it different? Is success and happiness different? And the way I went about defining success for myself, I believe, is the happiness meter for Amanda. And I'll tell you how what I came up with as my definition of success and why I think it matters. Even though I talk about things from an entrepreneurship lens, my definition of success is my whole life, because my business integrates into my life. It's not separate. And so which took me a really long time, because I don't know if anyone listening has defined success for themselves before, but it was something I had never done. I have defined goals my whole life, and I love defining goals. Tess knows this. Sarah, you probably know about it too. And I love defining goals, but I had never defined success. And so after much thought and deliberation and so many different drafts of this, I came up with the definition for myself is currently success is being present in my life, content with what I have, yet challenging myself in new ways. So for me, that definitely encompasses happiness as well. Because the way I boiled it down to figure out what that was for me was I asked myself questions like, when was the last time I felt abundant? Someone actually asked me that on a podcast, and I was a little stunned. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't really know what to say. But my answer was the last time I was very present with a friend, and I felt
Yeah,
so
definitely.
abundant and happy. And for someone like myself, who is definitely super driven, task oriented, all of the things that you can like put me in a box and say, yep, that's Amanda. Like, everything is labeled and all these things are organized and all of that. It is very hard for me to be present because I'm always thinking about the future.
Yeah.
And so I am truly, truly happy when I can slow my roll long enough to be present with whoever is in front of me. Like you two right now, you're it for me, right? There's other things happening in this house, but I have no idea what's happening because I am here with you. And that truly, truly fills my cup and makes me happy.
That
Yeah.
sounds amazing. It's Yeah, just kind of listening to you then. And as a therapist, that's something that I talk about a lot with my clients, is about being in that moment. And I know that for me personally as well, that that's definitely something that is just all around me at the moment, is about that slowing down. And I love that idea of just slowing down, just slow down a little bit, just be in the now. The other stuff, just let that be there, but be in the now. And I love the metaphor of just filling up your cup.
Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, it sounds like it is for you too, but it's so hard. Like you say these words, like
Yeah.
just be present, just do that. And I've told myself that a million times in my life, and it's so hard. And if someone is
Yeah.
listening and it's not hard for you, like, please know that's a gift. That is a gift you have been
Yes.
given in this world.
Yes.
So soak that up, because I
Yeah.
struggle hard with it. But other
Yeah.
people can be really, really present. And when I'm around people like that, it is so inspiring.
Yeah.
I've heard so many stories of people just like not having their phone around when they're around other people or whatever. And it's such a simple thing to do, yet hard thing to do as well.
Oh, I agree. I agree. I like some at one point, I don't know where I heard it. I don't remember where I heard it. Maybe it was a podcast, maybe someone was just telling me about it. I don't remember. But someone was like, a phone is like you're like when you're on your phone when you're with another person, it's like you're bringing a third person into that
Oh,
relationship. And I just have this image now of like, oh, I pull up my phone, oh, I'm just bringing out this person, and there's just like this random
Yeah.
dude or woman with me, and oh yeah, no, I'm just going to ignore you because I'm looking at this person now. And I was like, that's such a good image. And so for me, that image was really impactful. And I was like, okay, no, like I don't want to bring a third person into this, or whatever it is. I want to be here and now with my friend that I'm with, or with my family member, whoever it is. And I love the word that you use, abundant, right? Because that is just such a beautiful term when you're talking about happiness, because you feel abundant, you feel, all of the things that you can feel, you feel right,
right.
you're full. And that could be a range of emotions, but you're feeling, you're filling yourself up. And I just think that is just such a great term to use when we're referencing happiness, is
Hmm.
abundant. Oh, so good.
Yeah. And noticing what makes us feel that way. That is something that I've learned to really try and recognize. Again, these are all things I'm learning. I'm not perfect at this by any means. And other people are really good at this and I am not. So I have to pay really close attention. What makes me happy? What makes me feel abundant? And writing it down. Like, it's been really interesting. That's something I've worked on with a therapist. So thank you, Sarah, for doing your work in this world, because we all need therapists, in my opinion. And she asked me to do that. Amanda, start writing
Hmm.
down what makes you happy, not anybody else, right? Like, what is the thing that makes you
Yeah.
happy? And there's no judgment with whatever you come up with on this list. And I've gone so many years in my life with not asking these questions. And it sounds ridiculous that I got this far in life without asking these questions, like, what is happy? What is success? How do I feel abundant? What do I enjoy? And I feel like I'm out of my realm here talking about this, because I'm certainly not a therapist, right? Like, I qualify myself all the time, like, I am not a therapist. But it's like, as a kid, we know exactly what it is, right? Like, there's no hesitation. And something happens along the way where I'm assuming someone says, that's stupid, that's silly. Why would you do that? Someone makes fun of us for something. And then all of a sudden, we don't know what makes us happy. It's like we're doing all these people pleasing things and bringing other people into the conversation with that phone. Like, we're doing all these things that don't
Mm.
really make us happy out of habit.
Yeah. Yeah. I use an onion analogy quite
Mhm.
often with my clients. So I don't know if that's something that you've
I
heard
don't
of
know. Give
before,
it to me.
Amanda. Um, so kind of describe when you've got an onion and you cut the onion in half, and you've got like the core bit down at in the very center, and then you've got all the layers of the onion going around that core. And the core represents that child, that kind of the birth of that child. And then the layers represent expectations, experiences, our own expectations, maybe other people's expectations of us, other people's experiences as well, and everything that we see around us, culture, our communities, the world, and it builds up on this onion. And then it's really difficult sometimes to define what's me, what someone else is, what's so it to me, I kind of describe it as let's peel back those onions. Let's see what's you. Let's see what someone else is that we no longer want, and let's get rid of that.
That's great. And it's a great visual and also so impactful that it's not all bad too. You didn't necessarily say these words, but it's not all like all things not us is at the core is bad. It's like all of it makes us who we are. All our experiences make us up as this onion with this unique print inside where it's got all these lines and all this stuff, and how just neat that is to think about of how we can embrace those experiences and expectations, but also know how to separate ourselves from them as well. Like I'm just seeing this as such a neat visual. So thank you for sharing that.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Amanda, do you feel that your perception of happiness has changed over the years?
Oh gosh, yes. I mean, I think that overall we change as humans, something that may have made me happy 10 years ago or 20 years ago, maybe not, it might not be the same today simply because we evolve as humans. But I think also that we experience new things. Like I'm thinking about, like, I did not like Brussels sprouts as a kid, and I love them now. And so, had you asked me at like 6 years old, right, does eating Brussels sprouts make you happy? Answer would be absolutely not, right? However, now in my late 30s, I love them. I love them. And it was all in how I experienced it one time at a restaurant. And I was like, oh my gosh, these are so good. How can I make them at home? And so I think we experience things in our life that can change moments of happiness, whether it's Brussels sprouts or something else. But so I do think that everything changes over time and our perceptions of happiness and what fills our cup change over time too.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I was laughing when you brought up the Brussels sprouts because when we were talking, when we had my husband on, Michael on the podcast, because we did 2 episodes of Meet the Husbands.
Oh, fun. I would need to go listen to those.
And they're quite fun. They're good fun. And he brought up the fact, or maybe I brought it up about him, that like his perception of like he was food as well. It was he didn't used to eat like any seafood, any shellfish at all, and he just thought it was horrible. And then we started dating, and I introduced him to different ways of maybe preparing it, and he was like, oh, these can actually be really good. And now, like, one of the first things that he wants to order when we go out is getting bay scallops. And like before he would have been like, oh my goodness, and it's just funny because like I think that not a lot of people, but I do, that's something that we kind of recognize in ourselves, right? Like, okay, what's one thing that's changed? Well, my perception of happiness to food.
Yeah.
And maybe food when you were a kid, it was just something you ate, and now like you're like, oh, food, and you want to take more time with it. And I think the older I get, the more I'm interested in like taking my time with my food and preparing it and then savoring it after. When I was in university, while I did cook a lot and I enjoyed it, right? Like I was just kind of throwing things in a pan, and occasionally I would spend time to make stuff, but I wouldn't put maybe the same amount of effort that I do now into my average meal.
Yeah. I love that you brought up that idea and that concept of time into it as well, of the time in which we find to enjoy the things. And I think it's as a kid, food was not the thing that was like the fun thing. It was the have to do thing because I want to go play outside, but mom says I have to eat. So I need to eat fast so I can get back outside and go play in the pool. Like this is me as a child. I want to get back in the pool. Like that's what I want to do. And, And I'm sure that this is not a real thing. Maybe it is. I don't know. Someone medical needs to tell me if it is. But it was like, my mom was like, you can't get in the pool until after 30 minutes after you eat because you can have a cramp or something, right? And so I would eat as fast as humanly possible. And I am a really slow eater. Like I always have been, but I would try and eat as fast as possible. And now I do not do that. I eat at the pace I eat, which people used to make fun of me all the time, but I don't care anymore. Like I just eat really slow, but I definitely savor my food.
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually way healthier too, right? Because then
Right.
your body actually has the time to like properly digest it. I'm very much the opposite. I grew up with two older brothers. And so I learned very quickly that if I wanted to get my food, I had to eat quickly.
Right.
This is not to say that, like mom wasn't good about like setting food aside for me. Like I wouldn't have starved. But
Right.
if I wanted more food, then I had to
Right.
step up. And so I ate quickly. And it's been it's quite difficult for me to still not do that. I know Sarah's dad has laughed at me more than once, like how like fast I'm eating the food. And he's like, whoa, no, he's gonna take it away from you. I'm like, oh God, no, I need to eat it now. And it's difficult for me to slow down. But when I do, right, I much more appreciate what I'm eating, and my body feels better as well. Like I don't bloat as much. I'm sorry, like all of it, just I'm able to take it in a lot better physically and savory as well. What a word in that context, but you know what I mean.
It kind of goes back as well to Amanda, what you were saying before about kind of being in the moment, and eating is definitely one of those things that we can be very mindful about of being in the moment, whether that's preparing that food and taking that time to do that, but then also the process of eating and really enjoying that food. I remember when I was training in CBT, we was doing a very short kind of course on mindfulness, and the tutor brought in some raisins, and he was like, you've got to put them in your mouth, but you're not allowed to eat them. And then he was like, you've got to be really mindful and you've got to chew them and notice what it's like, but you're not allowed to eat it. And I remember somebody, because normally they just like inhale these raisins without thinking, they get a box of raisins, throw them in the mouth, and this particular person then turned around and went, oh, do you know what? I really don't like raisins. I've been eating them for years, but I don't actually like them. And then other people were like, oh, they taste so different. Just taking that time.
Yeah. What again, like what an interesting aspect of this conversation of time and how we can understand what makes us happy, whether it's like, oh my gosh, I don't even like raisins. Like I'm just shoveling them in all the time and I don't even like them. Or, oh my gosh, I really do like those Brussels sprouts, And a lot of it, not always is it going to be time, but how interesting that is of time can allow us to really understand if we can slow down whatever we're doing and ask ourselves, do I really like this? Like whether it's eating food or running a business or dating someone or, like how many times have we just rushed through something where if we can stop and slow down and ask, do I really like this? Is this making me happy?
Mhm.
Then we can learn so much about ourselves. Of course, not everything we do in our life will make us happy, but if we can notice what makes us happy, we can try and do more of it.
Exactly. Exactly. Which is actually a really good thing that kind of lead into the next question I had for you. How do you integrate happiness into your work?
Ooh, I love this question. No one's ever asked me this question, but how fun is this? So, Tess, you know this a lot that I track everything. I track everything in my business. If you ask me a certain stat from a marketing standpoint, I'll be able to pull it up. I'm not going to know it by heart, but I'd be able to pull it up. I track my time, I track what I do. The reason I'm saying this is because that has allowed me to really understand what I enjoy in my business and the concept of what is your zone of genius. So there's a lot of people that talk about this. I'm not the first person by any means, but it's finding what is your zone of genius as an entrepreneur in your business. It's going to be different for everyone. And understanding what this is, this zone of genius, allows you to be happier in business, because what you can do is identify, okay, these are the things, this is my zone of genius, and this is what I want to do. Now, as an entrepreneur, we're wearing tons of hats. So by no means is that the only thing I'm able to do. So I'll give my context. It's no surprise, I love talking to people. So this is my zone of genius. If I could talk to people or create content with my words, I would be living in my zone of genius. I don't get tired. I keep going. I mean, I've had so many interviews in one day at points, and my husband is like, how in the world are you still a functioning human today after that many interviews? And I'm like, I could do more. I could do more. I love creating content, helping people, encouraging people. My zone of genius is not setting up Zoom calls. Time zones are the worst for me. I have messed it up. Tess is laughing because I do it all the time. These things are not my zone of genius. So as my business grew, I knew what to outsource. I will never outsource me creating content, but I can outsource getting things on my schedule. There's a fabulous woman named Jess who manages my calendar now. She's fabulous. And you know what? Things get better because I show up on time. Other people know when to show up. All things are taken care of. Like, it is genius. And I didn't have that at first, but when my business grew enough, and you get that question of what can I outsource? The answer is the things that don't make you happy, the things that don't fit in that zone of genius. And so for me, to come back to the original question of how do I integrate this in my business, I had to recognize it through tracking. So I'm very data driven. And so I tracked it. And the question that led me to so many answers was, how did this week go? Or how do I feel this week? It was all about like my feelings. And I would talk to myself basically in a spreadsheet. Or I would answer this form every Friday. And I would say, gosh, I messed up 3 meetings this week. You know, all worked out okay, but dang, how do I get this to be better with these time zones or whatever? And so I started to recognize that is not the thing. Like, I didn't do it terribly. I'm not saying like I made it really far in business without messing up things royally, but I recognized that that wasn't the thing I needed to invest my time and energy in because it did not make me happy. But I would research how I could be a better podcaster. I would figure out how I could be a better interviewer or interviewee or content creator in some way. And so that was how I figured out what my zone of genius was.
Oh, that's so good. I was laughing actually about you talking about, how you track everything. I've had a lot of people tell me, Tess, you're so organized. And I am in comparison to some, but in comparison to Amanda, it's like I'm sloppy.
No, we all have our gifts, and that's one of the things, like, people have told me my whole life, and sometimes it was making fun of it. And sometimes it was calling attention to it. And sometimes it was a compliment. Like, you never know what it could be. But I've heard my whole life how detail oriented I was. And again, sometimes that was a praise from a teacher of like, you are so detail oriented. This is fantastic. And other people being like, gosh, you're so annoying. Like, why do you have to be so structured like this? So it came in many different forms, but I've heard this my entire life. What I was able to do as a business, like a business owner, is I capitalized on my strengths and embraced my strengths. And I think so often we get caught up, and I'll raise both hands here and say, I've done this. We get so fixated on fixing the problem that we don't use our energy to capitalize on our strengths because we all have them. Mine happens to be organizing and structure and processes. And once I embraced that, not only was it great for my own business, I now get to help other people do it and teach. Like, here's what I do. Take what you like, leave the rest, right? I get to help other people figure that out for themselves, because the people who end up on my virtual doorstep are like, I am not organized. Amanda, please help me.
Yeah, I learned a lot from you.
Tessie's laughing.
I've always been, like I do like being organized, but yeah, I have learned a lot from you for sure.
I like
and
you being organized.
Yes, you do.
But the
I'm
cool part
okay.
is you two are doing this together, right? Like,
Oh, definitely.
we found each other in this,
Yeah.
like, what's your strength? What's your strength? Okay, us together, powerhouse team, right? That's
Totally.
amazing that when we can do that, whether it's a collaboration like the two of you with this podcast, or it's a collaboration of minds where you get together with a friend and you're not business partners, but you're doing other things to help each other. So like, I don't have the gift of doing, like, photography is not my gift. Nope, not my gift at all. Working a camera is very stressful for me, but I have friends who can do it really well. And so once a quarter we get together and they take pictures of me, and I do
Yeah.
the best I can on the other end of that camera, but everyone knows that's not my gift, but I can certainly show up for them in another way and say, like, I've got you. I'll organize your Google Drive today or whatever it is that they need done. I can help them in another way.
Yeah.
I love it's so lovely to hear everything that you're saying, because I suppose kind of relating it to therapy, I talk a lot about those social networks or those support networks that we have, and recognizing our strengths, as you say, Amanda, but then being able to go, but actually I need help with this, I need help with this bit as well.
Yes.
And kind of inviting that into our lives as well. So yeah, it's really nice to hear this from lots of different perspectives.
Yeah. And I really appreciate what you just said in that recognizing where we need help. This is not something I did well at the beginning. I don't like asking for help. I've learned that through many years of therapy as well. I think it comes with the territory of being unbelievably driven, right? Like, my husband asks me all the time, how in the world do you get as much done that you get done? And I'm like, I can focus for a long period of time. I'm not saying it to be braggy at all. I have a lot of downfalls, one of which is I refuse to ask for help. And so I've learned that I don't have to wait until the breaking point to ask for help anymore. But again, like, I say this because sometimes it can come across when, especially if I'm talking about my zone of genius and this is what I love to do and all these things, like, but I don't ask for help very well. Like, I don't do all things well. I do some things well, and asking for help is not one of them. But I've learned that when I do and when I reach out for help before I get to that point of crying on the bathroom floor, that things are much better. And so I'm getting better with that. And in my support system has allowed for that. So surrounding myself with people who know that I don't ask for help. So they proactively will say, Amanda, I know it's launch time, or I know it's blah, 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 like whatever's happening. What do you need? What do you need support with? And they have opened that door for me. So that has been the biggest help for me, is finding people that I could be honest and say, this is where I need help and support, which for me was, you have to probe it out of me what I need, because I'm probably not going to ask for it.
But I think that what you're talking about too is you've had a journey, right, of also communicating with yourself on this, and being honest with yourself, like, this is something I'm not good at. And I think it is really important when we're honest to ourselves about the things that we struggle with, right? And when we are able to be honest with ourselves, actually, this is something that I'm not good at doing, it's much easier then to build that support system, because we can have those frank conversations. They might not be very fun at the beginning, they might be very difficult, but when you have that awareness, you can reach out and say, hey, I really struggle with this, can you check in on me? And it might not be all the time that they're able to do that, but they will look out for you more often because you were honest with them, and that happened because you were honest with yourself. I think that this is very important to the sort of idea of getting to know yourself, and that abundance, right, of what we were talking about at the beginning, is that self-communication and learning what you need when you need it, and how to give back to yourself and be present so that you can do the things that you love that bring you happiness. And I do just think that that's such a beautiful, sort of full roundabout connection from the start to the end of this conversation. And so one final thing that we want to ask you, well, the second to final thing that we want to ask you is there any advice that you'd give to your younger self, and what would it be?
Slow down. That would be the answer. Slow down. Hard stop.
Love that.
Yes.
Love
I think many of us can use that.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I'd want to tell my younger self so many things. I talk often about the 2017 version of Amanda because that's when I started my business. And I'm so proud of her. Like, I wish I could tell her, I'm so proud of you. You did it scared. You did it messy. You did it. She didn't know that. She was just terrified. She was scared and she didn't know what was going on. And all these things, like I feel like as soon as you start a business or anything in your life, you start learning something new, you go to a new school, you move to a new place, like you have no idea what is down the path, but you just have to put one foot in front of the other. So I kind of jokingly said, slow down. I'm glad that I didn't get analysis paralysis when it comes to starting my business. So I did not slow down there. So that maybe that I'd kind of go back on my word here a little bit of slow down enough to know myself and not lose myself. But don't stop. Like, absolutely do not stop, because if we stop, like, we're not learning anything, we're not making progress in our life, in our business, we're not understanding what we want. So slow, but don't stop.
Oh, that image. It's kind of like
Mhm.
the tortoise and the hare, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you just take those slow steps and you move forward and you're steady with it, and maybe you're scared at times, maybe you're more excited at times, but you just keep moving on. Maybe asking for support at different times as
Mhm.
well. And then if you're the hare, you might rush and then you stop and you're like, oh, I can't do it. I'm exhausted. I'm overwhelmed. I'm whatever. Right. And we all have those moments. Like, let's be honest, like that's also natural and it happens. But, I think that it's very much that, slow down and enjoy the smell of the roses along the way. Enjoy the journey, the ups and downs of it, the
Mhm.
scariness of it, the fun of it. Celebrate the wins that you have, shed those tears, all of it. I think that is just such a great image that you share.
You're sharing this and it's so interesting. I wrote this book and I forget what I wrote, right? It's been over a year. Like, I've been writing this book for a really long time, it seems like. And you just reminded me of something I said in the book that I like, this is what I would say. And there was this line that I wrote, and I remember exactly when I wrote it. And it was such a sweet moment. I was in bed one night writing, and I said, be in awe of where you are, because you can never be in this point again. We often want to rush through the beginning of anything because it's uncomfortable and it's awful and awkward and all these things, but you can never be there again. And so being in awe, and I just recorded a private podcast episode for people who pre-ordered the book. And I called myself out. Yeah, well, get ready for it because it's a good one. I called myself out. I found myself sitting at a table with my friend, and she said, "How are things with the book?" And I said, "It's awful. I'm ready for this part to be over. This is stressing me out. I don't know what date the book is going to launch. It's really stressing me out." For someone who just loves the timeline, like, I am unbelievably uncomfortable with this. And that moment of me writing that sentence in the book hit me, and I said, "Oh my gosh, there I was doing exactly what I don't want anyone to do." And so I took a moment after she left at lunch, and I was like, "Okay, how can I embrace this moment of being in awe of where I am?" And ever since that moment, I am better with not great, but better with the idea of, I don't know what day my book is going to officially hit the shelves. Like, I wish I could say that. I don't. I can say June. Don't know what day. It's going to be a surprise to us all when it happens, right? Like, I don't know. And I'm like, you know what? I just need to roll with this a little bit more. This is a life lesson that Amanda is learning. And I need to be in awe in the fact that I get to release this first book, because I'll never get to release the first book ever again. So I'm going back on my word like 3 times. Be in awe of where you are, is what I would say.
I think
Such a
they're all
lovely
good.
word. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Such a lovely way to phrase it, being in awe of where you are now. I love that. I really do. Amanda, something that we like to offer our listeners is a happy edit tool for something that might be small, that might bring a little bit of happiness into their lives. Is there anything that you would like to share with our listeners that they could maybe go away and try?
Yes. So I will tell you that defining success or identifying what happiness is the tool. Like, you two are giving us the tool. So your podcast is a great one, right? Like, us uncovering this. And it took a really long time for me to define success on my own terms. And that's the lens that I have since I work with entrepreneurs so much. But happiness could be filled in there too. Like, define happiness on your own terms. And so I'll share the steps, but if it's okay, I do have a free guide that you can link to on my website, if that's not okay. Just
Definitely.
okay.
Of course.
But it's on my website at amandamckinney.com/success. And you can download it. And it's a quick guide that you can fill in. So it makes it easier, because it took me like a year to figure this out, and it'll take you like 10 minutes. So you can do this. But really, it's asking yourself something. So you ask yourself, what do I want, or what makes me happy? But then I want you to ask yourself another question. I want you to complete the sentence, I want red roses on the table today, so that what comes after so that I can see beauty on the counter, right? I want everyone to understand the so that part of their sentence, because that tells us so much more. I was giving this example the other day, and it might be like, I want to go on a trip with my spouse, right? And so you buy the ticket, you go on the trip, and you come back in the same spot because you didn't spend any quality time together. But if you had asked yourself, why do I want to go on a trip with my spouse? You'd say, so that I can spend quality time with my spouse, which you could do tomorrow in your backyard. So you can usually get the happiness, the successful feeling much quicker once you understand the so that. So that would be my gift to everyone, is understanding that so that.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. And like we said before, Tess is the technology whiz, so she'll put that in the show notes.
I'll get all the links to you.
Yes. They'll be in the show notes. Don't worry, guys.
Thank
And
you
if they're
so
not there,
much.
send me a message and I somehow missed something. But yeah, no, thank you, Amanda. This has been so lovely having this chat with you, and it kind of exploring and journeying through, what happiness means to you and how that shows up in different ways in your life. And I do love that, the so that, right? The so that part of why do you want to do that? So that I can, whatever it is, and that get that benefit, whether that's usually it's like sort of like an emotion or something that fills you up, right? It's not just so that I can make a lot of money,
Right.
so that I can live in abundance, so I can be happy, right?
It's
much
amazing.
deeper level.
Yeah, it's amazing what comes after that. And that's why I was like, once I realized this, of course I wrote, like, that's one section of the book, but it's not the whole thing, but it was the one thing that I was like, I definitely am pulling this out of the book and making this free. Like, that was the thing, because it was like, this is the game changer. when we can ask ourselves the so that part of our sentence, it's unbelievable. And so we often, as business owners, will focus on a number. We often, as humans, focus on a number in our bank account, our budget. All these things are so important. It takes money to live. Like, we live in a world that's imperative. But if you can ask yourself, why do I want that number? Yeah, so that what gives us so much more information than just the number, because we can end up with the number and not be happy.
Yeah, very true. So Amanda, if our listeners would like to connect more with you, how and where can they find you?
Oh, thank you so much. Everything that you want to know is on my website at amandamckinney.com. So everything is there. You can get that free resource. Podcast is on there too. Instagram is my favorite place on the internet to hang out. So you can find me at the Amanda McKinney, and I would love, 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 love to get a DM from you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Amanda, again for being on. This has been lovely.
Thank you,
Yes,
Tess.
thank
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
At the Happy Edit podcast, we're mindful that the podcast is not in replacement of therapy. If you do need further support, please do contact us on our contact details in the show notes. And we're more than happy to offer further support and guidance and direct you to places like the counselling directory or therapy directories. If you do also need further support, we would also recommend you contacting your primary healthcare provider. Thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you all soon.